vibration a little bit. Dimensions is a subject I talked about previously, but it's really important. And so we hear the term dimension and densities. And so dimensions are levels of frequency and states of mind. Frequency and states of mind. The state of your mind decides what dimension you're in. The density is simply how the dimension is manifested. For example, the third dimension, which we have long passed, has a certain density. It's very heavy. Right? So the density is how things manifest within a dimension. How solid things are. How they move. How solid they are. How they move. The density is more equivalent to the vibration of that dimension. How solid things are. And dimension can be vibration and density go hand in hand, because vibration is an oscillating force. And I'm going to say this right now. Dimension does not rise or lower. You hear it all the time. Vibration. Raise your vibration. Impossible. Because vibration oscillates and this goes in this way. It's in an oscillation. So the faster the vibration, the less density, and the slower, the more dense. And you can apply that to emotions. You can apply that to realities. You can apply that to anything. Because vibration is one of the 7 laws that govern the universe. Do not listen to that BS that says there's 12. There is no such thing. The 3 adepts, just go read the Kabbalion. You'll find only 7 laws. Now that's quick and easy to dispel. These are agents who are creating confusion. One of the biggest ones is one I just mentioned. Talking about vibration raising. Why is that a problem? It's called quantum language. When the wrong quantum language is used, then the subconscious mind becomes confused. So anybody trying to raise their vibration is operating on an impossible task because of the natural nature of vibration, which moves in this way. What do you raise? You raise your frequency. That's what raises and lowers. And the dimension you are in dictates the frequency that you are putting out. So you can be living here in this 4th dimension, 3rd density. We live in the 4th dimension, 3rd density. And you could be carrying a higher frequency and a faster oscillating vibration. I say that word because I want to really drum it home. You can be carrying a faster oscillating vibration and a higher frequency than the place that you exist in physically. That will allow you, when you can do that, that would allow you to become a 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional being. By the way, we should be trying to skip the 5th altogether and become 6th, because that's where the magic happens. That's where you get things done. That's when you can look down on anything that's going on and see it before it's coming. So that should be our goal. It should never be to be a 5th dimensional being. We talk about the 5th dimension nonsense. We should be in the 6th. And as I said earlier, dimensions are states of mind. And you can bop up to the 6th dimension and then drift back and forth. That's generally what you do. But if you're living in the 6th dimension, it means that you spend the majority of the time up there. Whichever dimension you spend the most of your time, that's the dimension you dwell in. That's where you live. And generally, if you can pop up to the 6th, you naturally are going to gravitate to staying there. All right. Most people are in the 4th dimension. And most people are going to be stuck there. No judgment. But I don't really want to be stuck in the 4th dimension, because that's when when you're in the 3rd dimension, when you're in the 4th dimension, like your body, all of our bodies are in the 4th dimension, right? All of them. But when your mind is in the 4th dimension, you realize a lot of things that are going on that you didn't before, if you're a 3rd dimensional being. And then things really start to bother you because you can see them and they're realer than real. And in order to overshadow, override, overcome, and overstand, and also, what's the word I'm using? Bypass all of that, you have to be in the high 5th, 6th dimension, not the lower 5th dimension, or the lower or the upper 4th dimension, because that's where the manipulators are. You don't want to be in that. You want to be in the 6th dimension, in your state of mind, and your consciousness will start to expand. Your abilities that are beyond the psychic abilities, because you don't want to get stuck in that thing either. Oh, I'm psychic. You don't want to be stuck there. You want to be above the psychic reality. And you do that by being a 6th dimensional being in your mental state. So, let's just talk about dimensions. What are they? I just talked about them being existences, mentals, where you are mentally, and all of what I just talked about is a choice. So it's a choice to be whatever dimension you want to be in. It's a choice. And so when you choose to be in a certain dimension, you choose to do what it takes to get to that place. You choose to get to that place. And you have to become lighter. The higher the dimension you go into, you have to become lighter, meaning you have to get rid of all the drama that would hold you back from reaching that. And I'll get into that later on. But let's just talk about what they are, like scientifically. What are dimensions? And let me tell you, the higher you go, I can only go to about the 5th before I can't really logically explain it. They have logical explanations. What is that, babe? What is that? Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. What is that guy that was explaining the dimensions that you looked at the other day? He does a great job because he simplifies it, breaks it down, and leaves a lot of the confusion out of it because it gets really hairy. Let's start with the 0 dimension. The 0 dimension is a dot. If we're gonna make it really, really down to earth and easy to understand. So if you were to picture what the 0 dimension is, it would be a dot. So if you exist in the 0 dimension, everything you see would look like a dot. Plain and simple. Nothing more to it. The 1st dimension is you only see things in one section or segment of view. For example, you would see everything. If you saw me in the 1st dimension, I would look like a line. I would look like just a straight line. And if I was standing up, I would look like that. If I was laid down, I would look like this. It's just a straight line. You only get to see one dimension of existence. You don't get to see the others. Right? Straight line. If you're in the 2nd dimension, then you get to see length and width. Okay, so everything would look, perfect example, everything would look like the deck of cards, the royal, what do you call it? the king, the queen in the deck of, playing cards, or even any kind of card, you would see that. You would only be able to see length and width, just like Alice in Wonderland. And you could even call it flatland. Everything would look flat. You would only be able to see length and width. And everything would look flat, right? And so anything existing with more angles and perception, you wouldn't be able to see. You wouldn't be able. This is a key to remember. You wouldn't be able to see it. So if I was living in the second dimension, you would see me as like you would see a deck of, the queen on a deck of cards, or the king, or the jack. You would only be able to see me as flat. The land, everything you lived in you would only be able to perceive something flat. If I jumped in the air, you would not be able to see me, because I would now be bringing the something from the third dimension down to you, which is height. Remember, second dimension, you only see length and width. You can't see height. So I would be considered some powerful being in the second dimension. Man, he could disappear. Like, he could just do this thing. We don't know what it is, but he disappeared. He must be a god. What else can you do that's special? And to someone in the second dimension, I would be a highly evolved being, because I could just flip my finger and disappear. I could grab something in the air that they can't see because it's height, and hang from that, and they would never be able to see me. Because now I've brought the third aspect in, height, which is a third dimensional aspect. The third dimension, again, I just hinted at it, has length, width, and depth. Or height, whatever. You could, but it has three. It brings in the third, length, width, and depth. And that's what a third dimensional being, that's what a third dimension would look like. Right? And the fourth dimension, you're able to see length, width, height, depth, and you're also able to perceive behind things. So, what does that mean? It means that in the fourth dimensional reality, the one we're in, you're able to see behind something. So you can see behind a wall. You know who could do that? The superhero we know as Superman. He had X-ray vision. Superman was simply before I go to that, because it's going to seem confusing. The rule is, whatever dimension you are in, you see the one below. So if you're a fourth dimensional being, you see things in a third dimensional lens. That's why we can see only length, width, and depth. So the X-ray vision, being able to see behind things, that's what a fifth dimensional being does. Because if you're in the fifth dimension, your body and everything I'm talking about, not just your mind, if you're in that dimension, you're able to see into the fourth dimension. So Superman was simply a fifth dimensional person. And he came down into the fourth dimension. So that's why he could do the amazing things that he did, I know it's a cartoon character, but I bring him up because he's so familiar to all of us that there's no need to explain who Superman is, because we all know. So you can see the rule. Whatever dimension you're in, you see below it. All right? And so the fourth dimension, now many will say the fourth dimension is the time dimension. That is not true, because time exists in all dimensions. There's time existing in the third dimension. And there's time existing in the fourth dimension. And there's time that exists in the fifth dimension. Right? And in the fifth dimension, that allows you to go backwards and forwards in time very easily. You can go back in time and you can go forward in time. Energy healing. A lot of the work we do is fifth dimensional work and above. Simple thing like inner child work is fifth dimensional work because you're going back in time. Your body is here in the fourth dimension, but your mind is existing and working in a higher dimension. Right? So this brings me to a very important subject. So if you are, remember I said earlier that you can have your body existing in a fourth dimensional existence, but your mind is not bound to any dimension that your body is in. Depending on who you are, how much work you've done for yourself, how much of your double helix DNA strands that you have activated, and depending on what you have in your DNA, you can exist in much higher dimensions up here. For example, I'll give you an example. The situation with this introduction of this condition, the one that starts with a C, I don't want to give it any credit by even mentioning his name, but unless you've been living under not just one rock, but 50 of them, below all of them, you know what I'm talking about. Right? John and I, we were aware of it, and we lived in it, and all of that. We're completely unmoved by any of the fear and what was going on. Why? Because even though our bodies are in this fourth dimension, right? Our minds are existing in higher dimensions, meaning, and this is really important to remember, when you are mentally in a higher dimension, remember I said you can see the one below you? So if you are existing in a sixth dimensional situation, you're able to look down on everything else happening below you. And that allows you to make decisions that are completely different than what the collective is doing. And you're able to see the manipulators manipulating people without participating in that manipulation. And you're able to make decisions with your life completely, and you become a creator based on what you can see from the higher dimensional plane that you exist in. And indeed, that is the name of the game. You wanna overstand this reality? We are all capable of it, by the way. You just simply set the aim to become a sixth, and I'm going to be very specific. I don't deal and mess around. Oh, well, we're going to the fifth dimension. There's a reason for that. And it's not even the real fifth dimension. It's made up. All the beings, all the manipulators that think that they're actually in control and that are manipulating humanity, they exist in the upper fourth dimension. They're all there. They can't go any higher. They have no capability to do that. No higher than that. Lower fifth, upper fourth dimension. So how do you keep control of it? You have to keep all the beings that you're controlling, you have to keep them below you. So it's okay if they go to the fifth dimension, but you see each dimension also, this is another little clue, each dimension has different levels of dimensions within it. So you'll be in whoever wants to go to the fifth 5D, falling for the New Age BS, they'll be in 5D, they're lower 5D, and the beings in control be just above them, being able to see and do anything to still control the situation. The minute you decide that you want to be six-dimensional, and for me, if you really, really want to transcend this reality, you want to be in the sixth dimension. Because that will allow you to see and also open up communications to your sixth dimensional self, which will then be able to guide you. And you'll even, it'll happen seamless. You'll do things, make decisions without anything that'll completely put you in situations where you're not participating in the pain and the suffering. Because all of the pain and the suffering on this earth is happening in the fourth density. That's how I can tell you most of us are in the fourth density. Oh, third density, sorry. Third density, fourth dimension. Because that's where all the pain and suffering is. So, once you know that, even if you do exist or you're mentally in the fourth dimension right now, you work to you raise your frequency, and you'll be lifted out of that fourth dimension, and then you can look back and you can see, and in that way you can do all kinds of things. You can also help guide people that are looking to raise their frequency out of that. Deontay the Oracle, whatever happened to the sixth? That's good to get to 7, 8, or 9. But why not the 6th? I asked that question for a specific reason. Hey, thank you everyone for being here. I see some of the familiar faces here. Roseanne Rainwater Smith, Lana Maya, Sonia. Who's this energy flow person? Okay, that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer. But dimensions build on each other. There's no way you go from whatever dimension you are and skip, because they build on each other. And if you don't understand the rules and the mechanisms in the 6th, you will not have the tools, because the tools and the avenues to get to the 7th are found in the 6th. And if you try to skip, you'll never make it to any of the other ones. You see what I'm saying? So if all of the things that you need to do are found in the 6th, then and then you try to bypass all of that, you'll never get to the 7th. And so you want to make sure you know where you are. Because you could think you're in you're in a dimension, and in fact you're not. The ego will do that. Ego is not a negative thing, but the ego doesn't want to lose you. And the higher your frequency is, the more out of your ego you become. And it will play games with you. It will play games with you, trust me. So, let's see. Any questions, anyone, so far? Yeah, so here's the thing. So the name of the game is vibration and frequencies. Frequency. The reason why they get confused, remember, for those who weren't here, I don't know who's here, who wasn't. Vibration oscillates. It does not raise or lower. So you want to make sure that you, most people I know, most people say raise and lower your vibration. It is frequency that raises and lowers. And this is also scientific. You go, look up anything. You can even go to your internet and look up, how does vibration move? So you can check me. Yeah, I never ask anybody to believe anything I say. But I will often leave information for you to check for yourself, because you should never just get information and never do any research of your own. And this is easy. You'll get this. You'll figure this out. You'll see this in 5 minutes, really. You go in there, ask, and just go to the internet. How does vibration move? How does frequency move? It's science. It's really science, and then you'll see. Or you go to even YouTube. Give me an example of something vibrating, and ask for an example of seeing how it moves, and you'll see. Right? So the name of the game is vibration and frequency, and they're tied together because they kind of go hand in hand. They go hand in hand with each other. So it's easy to get them conflated, to conflate the two, right? It's easy to conflate the two. So all you need to know is the difference so that you can know how to maneuver in the reality. Because in terms of vibration has to do with, if you want to shift your vibration from one oscillation to a faster one, then the best indicator of that is where you live on an emotional level. And you work on anything that keeps you in emotions that are slower in their vibration. Examples of that are anger is a slow vibration. Anger is healthy when it's needed. So this is not a negative thing. Anger, frustration, and we all go through it. So if frustration comes in, look at why you're frustrated. Don't try to not be frustrated, because that's going to be more frustrating than anything. Hey, Shalom. All right. No, you're welcome. And so you wanna detect the kind of emotional state that you're in and the kinds of mental states that you're in. And use joy as your barometer, as your measuring tool. If the emotions that you're in don't put you mostly in a situation of joy. Now, what I mean, let me just really be specific with that. We're not here to be happy and enjoy 100% of the time. There are times where other emotions are valid and needed. And just because they are associated with slow oscillating vibrations like anger and fear and frustration does not mean that we never want to go there. Because you may need anger, because that might take you to the place where there's an issue that you must deal with is happening. So we don't want to be delusional, being frustrated and then saying, "Oh no, I'm frustration. That's not me. I'm happy. I'm always this," and going through these silly affirmations that we're told to repeat that don't apply to the situation or circumstance we're in, and our subconscious goes, "That's BS. Yeah, that's why right now you're over here, but then you're telling me you're over here." No, we want to be truthful to ourselves. So when you are in frustration, sit in frustration, find out why, deal with it, and then jump right back to that high frequency, fast oscillating baseline that you create for yourself. I say joy because joy is something that can be attained, and we all know what joy is. Joy is a thing that's long lasting. And once you're in joy for a period of time, you can even be sad and still be joyful. You can be sad and be joyful in your sadness. And that's the next level, right? And it helps to understand this reality and its false nature, so you don't take it too seriously. Once you don't take it too seriously. So you want to live in joy and happiness, but understand it's quite okay to be in sadness, frustration, and anger if it's appropriate. But we don't want to live in those. Right? So we don't want to live in those. And once we start doing the things that are, because this is how you spiritually expand. It is through the emotions that is done. This reality puts emotions in a very negative light. And there's a reason why. Because if you devalue emotions, you won't give them the time of day, leaving them with the opportunity to control your emotions. And they do it through other people. But if you begin to value your emotions, decide which ones you're going to live in, even value the so-called negative ones, and use them for your advancement or to point to you where things are happening, because that's what emotions do. They are indicators. They're actually very helpful, both the positive and the negative ones. They're all good. I feel my best is when I don't care about anything. Nothing bothers me. That's exactly where you want to be, right? But you that's where you want to be. But there are going to be times where you're going to have to care, right? There are going to be times where you're going to have to care. How can you care and still keep your joy and still not be bothered? That's the next step. And if you're an empath, someone who feels very deeply, it's a challenge for you. But what else you got to do with your life? You're here to master the self. So when you don't care, that is actually a step. There's power in that. And then the next step is, how do I care without being dragged down? You know what I mean? How do I care without being dragged down? And it starts by, really, it's all the same thing. Getting in there. Like what we're doing on the Patreon. This is why I really stress that we engage doing the working with the different aspects of the subconscious mind, so that we can, and then boundaries as well. And those boundaries can be more defined the more we are in line with our emotions. Notice I didn't say in control. In line with our emotions. Understanding them, following them, and knowing what they're telling us. And then actually listening to them. Because the emotions are an aspect of ourselves, and they have a job to do. So we want to work on those emotions, and rather not work on the emotions because you got them, but work on the things that keep us in the emotional state that make life not so enjoyable, and create the kind of fertile environment within yourself that will exude the emotions that you want to dwell in. When you dwell in peace and you dwell in joy, you are, and it means that you are doing something, because in this reality, that's not a given. It's designed to keep you out of that. Its design is to keep you out of that because it needs you to be in suffering and it needs you to be in pain so that you can stay in the dimensions in which you can be controlled. They sit here and you sit there. But if you're in joy, you're going to be above that mentally. You're going to be above that, and you're going to be able to and your decisions will always be based out of a situation of joy and happiness, and more importantly, peace. And more importantly, I should say peace and joy. Because it's more important to be joyful than it is to be happy. because happiness doesn't last long. Situation and circumstance can change your happiness. Joy is a much more powerful state of being because it can combine itself with a lot of stuff. You can be joyful, like I said earlier, and be sad. You can be joyful and disappointed. Your frequency stays high, even though those others or mental states are, you're experiencing them. Right? You do everything in joy, and you maintain your frequency. Because joy vibrates very fast and is at a high frequency. And if you dip into neutrality, that's still good. So you might not be in joy, and you'll learn to do these things by releasing all the shit that creates the drama that keeps us out of joy. Right? And a lot of the drama that's created is like you don't even have to create it. It'll just come because, like I said, that's the fourth dimensional energy that's being pumped in and piped into this reality. Because most people are going from the third to the fourth dimension. Hey, Uniquely Fit. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so that's it's all this particular aspect of things that I'm talking about are all the work dwells in the emotional side of things. All the work dwells in the emotional side of things. Right? So that's what we want to do. We want to work on the emotional side of things. And that takes time because you do something, then you have to give time for integration and relax and love on yourself and do the things, the salt baths, go out into nature. Nature is a natural balancer. It will balance you out. Okay? Or listen to, if you're in a city and you have to get into your car, just go to a tree. You don't have to hug up on the tree. Just stand next to it. Have a mental conversation with it. Put your hand on it. Give it the emotions you no longer want. It's actually beneficial for the trees. Remember, they breathe in carbon dioxide that's poisonous to us. That's what they survive on. It's not only that. Our emotional states, you give it to the tree. It's actually nutritious for that tree's spirit. And then they give you the stuff that's nutritious for you. Right? So that's going out into nature. Let's say it's nighttime and you're not feeling it. Put on some music. By the way, 432 hertz, that's the frequency of nature and the universe. Put that on. Put the headphones on. Do not listen to that crap off YouTube. That's for free. If you got Spotify, you've got what's the other one? iMusic, not iMusic. iTunes, or something like that. Most of you probably have you can go there and get some 432, and the vibration of that music. And I say 432 because 440 is chaotic. So you just turn the radio on and listen to anything, it's chaotic, right? Because of not the music, it's how they tune it, right? So you don't want to turn on the radio at 440 because it just amps everything up. 432, that's the natural frequency of the universe. Or 528, you can go on there, Spotify, any other music services, and find it. Put your headphones on, or even if you have a music system, put that on in your house. Just sit, relax. That will raise your frequency, shift your vibration. And if you do that enough on a regular basis, the environment in your home will shift to a very peaceful one. Right? So that's a simple thing you can do. If you do that, bang, like that. And of course, plants in your house. So you see, the answers to what ails us doesn't cost a lot. Get some plants in your house. Start talking to them. They're a consciousness that's always communicating with us. Because naturally, human beings have communicated with every other life form here on the planet. And we have allowed ourselves to be removed from that. But if you are aware that that's possible, you simply want to, and these are indicators. Being able to communicate with plants, I could tell you something. That is not a fourth dimensional capability. You're looking at upper 5D to 6D. So you start doing those things. Playing that 4D territory, going out into nature, getting plants, communicating with them. And they will also bring you into wholeness and assist you in raising your frequency. Pets, if you got pets, start communicating and interacting with your pet in a very conscious way. Because they can see the stuff on us that we can't see. Because see, they're not programmed. They're not programmed. So they can see, and they're not shut down either. And their frequencies are very high. Your plants, your pets, very high. I don't care if it's a stray animal on the street. Their frequencies are very high. They're helping to keep the frequency of the planet high. And I say high, really high. Your dog, when you come home, if it's in a good environment, lives in a loving and peaceful mental state all the time. That's 528. And they're often higher than that. Per average, they're way higher than that. So we have all these things. Now, having a pet just costs some money, but some of you probably already have pets. Start dealing with them, speaking, communicating with them on a more conscious level. You kind of do that anyway, right? But really, start communicating with them because they also have spirits too. And many of them are spirits and are aspects of you that you have organized to come down here and assist you. Some of them are just, they're animals. They're here to be a part of the planet. And some of them are here just for you. And there's a little bit of you in them. Because in our pure states, we are pure creator beings to the core. And to become the creator down here in this dimension, it's a conscious decision. It's not just something that will happen for you. Yeah, you've got a little paparuski there. You've got a paparuski there, so yeah, start communicating consciously with them. I've seen cats crawl out of different dimensions and point things out. I've been helped by cats a lot. I'm not a cat person. That has nothing to do with it. I'm a life person. I can tell you some stories involving cats. Yeah. All right. So, if there are no questions, by the way, anyone here interested in joining the Patreon where we do all kinds of work to expand the spirit and all of that, check it out on the bio. But also on that bio, there's that meditation for making a deeper, clearer connection with your higher self as well. Because it's all about your spirit, because that's what you go back to. When you drop all of this, You don't go back to the soul. That's the other thing. They always tell you about soul, soul, soul. No. I've never heard of someone say, oh, I saw this soul walking across this place or whatever. They always say spirit, because that's the thing that's forever, not the soul. Okay, glad you said that, because I'm a cat person. Oh, you're not a cat person. Okay. Yeah. Shalom, yeah. But I don't, I like cat. If there's a cat that comes around, I haven't seen him in a while. And
I'm not saying, so please tell some cat stories.
Huh?
Read the rest of it.
Glad you said that. I'm not a cat person.
Tell some cat stories.
Oh, please tell some cat story. Okay, I'll tell one cat story. I've never personally owned a cat. Okay? But I had a roommate that had cats. And there was a time in my life, and I'm making a new course on this particular subject, so that people can understand the nature of psychic attacks and how they happen. And most of psychic attacks that are perpetrated, the let's just say victim, I don't like that word, but the person that's perpetrated on is not even aware that it's a psychic attack. So I'm going to make a course on that next coming months. So some very, very unsavory people who did not like what I was doing, something that I did, decided that they were going to go deep into their black magic and send all kinds of, let's just say, not so savory disembodied beings over to me to take care of business. And the cats would tell us when something was in the house that shouldn't be there. And you would know, because you would suddenly hear like this sound. You know, cats can make sound. They never make the sound, but when they make it, you know something's wrong. And she had quite a few of them, and only like one would say, and the other would be sleeping. Then we figured out that when they go to sleep, they're working in other dimensions, looking at stuff. So they're probably communicating to the one that's awake, saying, hey man, something's coming. So let them know. Because it happened too many times for it to be a mistake. And the cat would go directly to where that energy was. And it would just corner it in there. It would corner it. And then I would go over, would see, and then I would clear it out. Right? And it happened so many times. I remember one time the cat was in a room, and we didn't even know it was in there. We just heard this weird, and we come up, and we open the door, and the cat is looking directly onto my bed. And she is going, and she's making these sounds, and she's not playing. She's not afraid at all. And she was an older cat. She was toothless. She had no teeth. She was about like 15 years old. Her name was Oreo. Oreo saved my life because there was something on my bed. And Oreo stood there, and she was like, and she was not playing. She had no fear at all. And there was nothing that these energies could do to these cats. And then, boom, open the door, and there it was. And we went and cleared it out. And it was one of the most difficult clearing. When I mean clearing, it's just like getting it and sending it up to be transmuted. Because I don't, any energies that come to me that are not, and I've had some that have come to me that are, you know, they're tired of it. They're done. Whatever it is. And you have to understand, a lot of these energies and entities, they're enslaved too in this reality. Because it's not just happening to humanity, it's happening to a lot of beings that don't wear bodies. And, okay, no problem, send them up. Right? So, this thing is laying there on the bed, and I did my normal, nothing happened. Oria's still going, doing her stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then on the spot, I had to bring in like extra. and this is energetics I'm talking about. And I work with source energy, the great center sun. Source energy is not of this planet. It's connected to the planet because this is a source creation. But I don't work with the stuff created here. Because whenever you work with this fourth dimensional astral stuff, there's always someone that knows something that you don't know. But when you're not even playing down in there, you're way above it, which is why I encourage going and becoming at least sixth dimensional. Because when you're up there and you bring your stuff down, none of this stuff can mess with it. Because it's like you're coming from, let's just use like school. You're coming from university, and that stuff is third grade. Right? So it's no chance. So clearing it out usually takes a minute or two to do that. Take 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And which is still really fast. Because if you have got that stuff going on, you know, people usually go to the priest. Catholic, the priest comes in, he's bringing all kinds of stuff, and 3-4 days later, he may have gotten rid of it. When you're working with source energy, you're talking minutes, not hours or days. Not hours or days. So that was one of a couple of cat stories when it comes to what they're able to do. So if you have a cat or even a dog and they're pointing to something and it just seems weird, or something that you can't see with your physical eyes or whatever, yeah, just pay attention to them. Pay attention to them because they tell you stuff. And they're always communicating with you. You guys know that. Dogs, and they're always communicating. Especially dogs. They only exist to communicate and hang out with you. Cats, different story. You know, sometimes they want to be near you, and unless it's a certain kind of cat. I've been around a cat too that was really friendly. It was like he thought he was a dog, and he behaved just like a dog. Wherever you went, he went. If you sat down next to him, his name was Vladimir. Wonderful cat, and yeah. But most cats, they got their own thing going on, and you're just on the list of a lot of the things that they've got going on. A cat has one thing on the list. A dog has one thing on the list. It's you. You to be happy, you to everything. Cat, not so much. They got other priorities too going on. All right, let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, all your animals are rescues? That's phenomenal. That's really cool. I used to, not rescue, but I used to foster greyhounds. You know, because I live in San Diego, and down at the tracks, you know, they just, when they're done using them forever, they just destroy them. So we used to go down, we were part of an organization that we used to go down there, and they'd call us, oh, we got a couple, and we'd bring them in, because, you know, we also did dog sitting. And my partner at the time had a grooming shop. And so we made our living off of working with them. And the contribution back to them was that we did a greyhound rescue. We volunteered to foster them. Oh, Shalom, yeah. Yeah, I would say you know what? Now that you mention that, Shalom, I would say you're cat-like. I would say you're cat-like. What's that, babe? That's, oh. Hello. Hello. You're a Leo. You and Joanne. It's a bunch of you, Joanne, and Sonia. Leos. Unless there's another one in here that we don't know about. That's fantastic. I love that you rescue animals there, Roseanne. Phenomenal. Yeah. So, you know, there's so many things that we have around us that we can use. Pets, plants, nature, a tree that you befriend, music. Music is so big. Music is the highest form, the highest frequencies exist in music. I know they talk about it being light all the time. Sound. Highest frequencies exist in sound, not light. Just another little tidbit there for you. Alrighty. Alright, you guys. It was phenomenal. I think I'll end it here. Unless there's another question or so. And next week we're going to be on our New Orleans retreat. We'll see how it goes there. Again, a reminder. We'll not have a Zoom meeting this Thursday, but I will be loading up a bunch of stuff there, little things to, pointers, fun stuff and all of that for you. And then it gives you time to, engage some of the stuff there too. And so until next time, guys, sayonara, as they say in Japan.